Welcome to Grand Sumo Breakdown,
the unofficial sumo podcast
for official sumo fans. Welcome to Grand Sumo Breakdown. This is Ryan.
This is Jake.
And this is our Banzuke prediction for the Hatsu 2022 Basho. Before we jump into that, just got our few more plugs we've got to throw in there. As you've heard, probably over the past 3 or 4 episodes, the popularity poll is live right now. So if you have not filled out the popularity poll, go find it on Twitter, Facebook. It's in the YouTube description for our recap episode. It's everywhere that Grand Sumo Breakdown is. So find it, fill it out. We want to hear your voice and see who the most popular Rikishi is, at least among the English-speaking community that Grand Sumo Breakdown reaches.
The most important sumo fans.
The most important sumo demographic.
Yep.
And then also we have the North American Sumo Championships in Las Vegas this Saturday, December 11th. It is a tournament that will qualify the competitors for international tournaments. And those are the big ones for amateur sumo.
That'll be July 22 is the World Games in Alabama. So yeah, this weekend we'll be deciding who's going to represent the U.S.
Yep. And Grand Sumo Breakdown's own Jake, Mac, and Ryan will be there to help call the action if you are there live and in person. And in order to get ready for that, Mac and Jake have had a whole host of bonus episodes where they have interviewed members of different sumo camps around the United States. We have Caleb of Mighty Eagle Sumo. We have the U.S. Open Weight champ Kyle Ferreter. We have Alex of Dark Circle Sumo. We have Karinga of Florida/Iron Wave Sumo. We have Eros Armstrong,
also of Dark Circle Sumo.
Yep, and she's the women's heavyweight champion.
Heavyweight and open weight. Yep.
All right. We have Corey and Khalil of Dallas Sumo, the Honu Sumo Club. Jake, who did you have from Honu Sumo?
We had JJ, Christina, and Menken.
All right. We had Marky Nass of Appalachian Sumo, Cornelius Booker of
Florida Sumo,
and Justin Kizert of Dark Circle Sumo. Jake, are there any more episodes to be coming out, or did you finally get through them all?
Thank Christ we have completed our roster here. No,
and you know what? Hopefully we have more after
I guarantee
North American Sumo Championships.
No, there will be probably less post episodes than pre-episodes, but there will definitely be some stuff. Yeah, just keep an eye out for that. Go check them out on YouTube. We got video of all those interviews. And I do appreciate you doing that entire list because my voice has not recovered from being sick AF for the last week and a half.
Yep, as is apparently the new tradition for the Banzuke episodes. Both Jake and I are coming into this fairly worn down and tired. So that only turns into good podcasting. So let's see where this goes.
We're right on our game.
I will say before we dive into the rankings. Hi, Katie.
Hey, there's my wife who doesn't know that we're live.
This Banzuke, I don't know if it's just Riley's getting older and requires more attention, and work has been very busy for me recently. But putting together this Banzuke, and particularly the outline for this Banzuke, felt more like work than it ever has. Usually it's just a fun side project. No, I literally spent an hour and a half to 2 hours putting my first draft of the Banzuke together, probably Sunday night, and then 3 hours putting the outline together where I'm just doing more research, questioning all the decisions that I've made, changing a bunch of decisions. And it just was a slog to get through. And I think there's not any particularly difficult sections of this Banzuke. It just feels like it's more chock full of close decisions than some other Banzukes have been, because usually it's like, oh god, this part's really hard to figure out. But once I get past there, these two guys deserve to be here, followed by these two, whatever. That's real nice and easy. Don't really get a good stretch of that in this Banzuke, except for the very beginning, where we will start with the Yokozuna Terunofuji, the sole Yokozuna, and will be for quite a while.
That's an interesting choice, but I think I agree with you putting Terunofuji at the top here.
Yeah, the ghost of Hakuho still demands enough respect that he could slide in there every basho or two. There is a slight reshuffling of the Ozeki as Takakeisho had a better record than Shodai. So Takakeisho will jump over and be the East Ozeki, and Shodai will slide down to be the West Ozeki. Sekiwake Mitakayumi will remain Sekiwake East for the third straight Basho. And at Sekiwake West, Meisei had a losing record, and so he's going to drop from the Sekiwake rank. And there's really only one real candidate to jump up to Sekiwake. Both Komusubi had losing records, and the Maegashira 1 Rikishi just had 8 and 7 records, which is not enough to keep them ahead of Maegashira 2, Takanosho, and his 11 and 4 record. So after a 3 Basho hiatus, Takanosho should be returning to the Sekiwake rank for the 5th time in his career. And as I mentioned on the Kyushu Review Shoe episode, that this will be his 5th Basho in Sanyaku, and he's never been Komusubi. So kind of a interesting stat for Takanosho.
Maybe they'll bump him down there just to mess with you this time.
I would be very upset if they did. That would
well,
make
I mean,
no
by
sense.
all means, by everything logical, he absolutely deserves that Sekiwake slot again. But still.
Yeah. Komusubi. Daisho is going to grab the East Komusubi rank thanks to his 5-match winning streak to end the Kyushu Basho, securing him an 8 and 7 record from Maegashira 1 East. And Meisei will be the Komusubi West after his 7 and 8 record. Since the early 90s, no Sekiwake with a 7 and 8 record has dropped out of the Sanyaku ranks. So you might think, well, Wakataka Kage was 8 and 7 for Maegashira 1 West. Maybe he can jump up, take that Komusubi rank, and we'll just boot Meisei down to Maegashira 1 East. That just is not the case. That's not how it works. Sekiwake with a 7 and 8 record for the past 30 years, they fall down to Komusubi. So let's move to our zone of death, starting with Maegashira 1 on the east side. That is Wakataka Kage. He is the only real choice for Maegashira 1 East since he had an 8 and 7 record as Maegashira 1 West. There are no more open Sanyaku slots, and he'll just slide over to the east side of the Banzuke. We've been seeing that quite a bit in recent Banzukes, and they will not open up a third Komusubi slot for him. And so this is kind of where the tougher decisions start at Maegashira 1 West. So it's going to be between a dropping Kiribayama, who had a 6 and 9 record from Komusubi, or a rising Ura with a 10 and 5 record from Maegashira 7. I ended up going with Ura because by the math, he deserves to be ahead of Kiribayama. But we do have that pesky like Sanyaku bias to think about, where somebody dropping from like the Komusubi ranks, they're going to be given a bit of a buffer to their fall. It's not going to be quite a full drop. There's still one that I will never forget. Miyogiryu was Komusubi, got a 4 and 11 record, dropped to Maegashira 2.
Yeah. And in this case, Ura is far enough back that his competition was substantially weaker than Kiribayama's.
Yeah. So history doesn't help decide this case. So I've seen cases where the 6 and 9 Komusubi was ranked ahead of the 10 and 5 Maegashira 7 and vice versa. So that does not help me at all. And shockingly, not a whole lot of cases where those records happen simultaneously. So it's not a big sample size there.
Sample size, what are we talking? Like maybe
2 or 3.
Okay, yeah.
In the past, like 20 years.
Almost nothing. Got it.
Yeah. So I think what it came down to me, I think ultimately it takes a special case to not drop a Rikishi down more than 1 rank after a 6 and 9 record, even if they were a Komusubi before. And it would take somebody that an instance where no one else deserves to be that same rank, where the 6 and 9 Komusubi would only drop down to Maegashira 1. But Ura does deserve that rank. He deserves to be ranked ahead of Kiribayama by the math. So I think that is enough to kind of ignore the Sanyaku bias and put Ura all the way up at Maegashira 1 West. So that'll be very fun to see Ura face a full Sanyaku slate for, I think, the second time in his career. And the first time is when his Makuuchi career ended because his knee got torn to bits. So yeah, hopefully that doesn't happen this time.
Since I know that you have the just absolute photographic memory of it, do you remember what happened? Was it like an in-ring incident? Or
yeah, it was in-ring.
Okay.
It was like day 1 or 2
Yeah,
of
it looks
a
like
Basho at Magashira 4
yeah, the
against like
September.
Takayasu or something like that.
Good lord. Well, let me look it up and see. Nope, you're not quite correct.
Dang it.
He got a day 1 win over Maegashira 5 Shodai, and then he lost to Maegashira 5 Takakeisho on day 2. And then he had a Fusen loss and was gone the rest of the tournament. So yeah, it must have been something that happened on day 2 against Takakeisho.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, that was, we were a literal rookie podcast in that Basho. So yeah. I definitely do not remember it.
Yep. So it'll be real fun to see Ura. Ura versus Terunofuji rematch will happen, and that'll be nice.
More Matrix moves, maybe.
Yep. Maegashira 2 on the east side. So since I did not give Kiribayama the Maegashira 1 west spot, I obviously have him going at Maegashira 2 east. And then at Maegashira 2 west, it comes down to Endo versus Tamawashi. So Endo was 8-7 for Maegashira 4, and Tamawashi was 9-6 for Maegashira 6. By the math, they deserve the same rank, and they were both on the same side of the Banzuke. So my next tiebreaker is going to go to Joy Bias when we're in this part of the Banzuke, which that is in favor of the higher ranked Endo. So I have him taking the Maegashira 2 West rank ahead of Tamawashi. So as we drop down to Maegashira 3 on the east side, once again, I had Endo taking the Maegashira 2 West rank instead of Tamawashi. So I will give the Maegashira 3 East rank to Tamawashi. And then at Maegashira 3 West, this is where I've got Ichinojo sliding in after a 5-10 record from Komosubi. Kind of like we talked about before, he's going to have a buffered drop despite deserving to go down 4 or 5 ranks. So trying to learn from the last time a Komosubi got a 5-10 and I over-demoted him, which was Wakataka Kage back in July. So the first person I need to determine if Ichinojo can be ranked ahead of is Okinoumi, who went 7-8 from the Maegashira 3 East rank in the past Basho. So Okinoumi could slide down just a half rank and force Ichinojo down to the Maegashira 4 rank. But I think the Banzuke committee likes to see a full rank demotion for 7-8 Rikishi unless they're forced into a situation where they only have to drop them a half or not at all. And I think they can easily justify dropping Okinoumi a full rank by slotting in Ichinojo, despite Ichinojo deserving to be ranked below Okinoumi by the math. Because remember, after the last Basho, Takayasu deserved to be ranked below Hoshoryu by the math. Takayasu was Komosubi, had a 4-11 record. Hoshoryu was Maegashira 1, had a 5-10 record. In every other instance, the 4-11 guy would drop behind the guy with 5-10, but Takayasu stayed ahead. So that's kind of the justification I'm using for Ichinojo being ahead of Okinoumi here. And then the next Rikishi that could possibly be ahead of Ichinojo is Hokuto Fuji with an 11-4 record from Maegashira 12. But if you look back just 2 Basho ago, when Wakataka Kage was Komosubi and had a 5-10 record, he ended up ranked ahead of an 11-4 Tamawashi from Maegashira 10 and a 12-3 Koto no Waka from Maegashira 11 on the next Banzuke. So Hokuto Fuji with an 11-4 from Maegashira 12. I don't see that being enough to jump over Ichinojo here. It really seems like if you're in the double-digit Maegashira ranks, you need to win a Yusho if you want to jump over like a dropping Komosubi. So I've got Ichinojo at Maegashira 3 West. So Maegashira 4, it's going to be figuring out which order to put the Rikishi that lost out to Ichinojo for the Maegashira 3 East rank or West rank. But that battle, to me, is at least pretty easy. Okinoumi deserves to be ranked ahead of Hokuto Fuji by the math. He also has Joy Bias, so I have him Maegashira 4 East, and Hokuto Fuji will be Maegashira 4 West. And then we come down to the last member of the Joy, that is Maegashira 5 East. And this is going to be a battle between 8-7 Chiyoshima from Maegashira 7 and a 12-3 Abi from Maegashira 15. Both of them deserve to be the same rank by the math, and both were on the same side of the Banzuke previously. So the tiebreaker goes to the Rikishi that had the higher tier of competition, since neither of them were in the Joy. But we have seen in the past, like a Maegashira 7 or 8 gets preferential treatment over somebody that was like Maegashira 15, 16. So on that basis, we're going to give Chiyoshima the benefit of doubt here and put him at Maegashira 5 East. So starting the mid Maegashira ranks, the guys that we're not really expecting to face much of a Sanyaku schedule, that will be Abi, at Magashira 5 West. Unless the Banzuke committee could get weird here, drop Onosho 3 spots after his 5-2-10 record from Magashira 2 because of Joy bias. I don't think it happens here, but it's something to look out for. Abi does deserve to be ahead of Onosho by the math, so for that reason, I'm going to keep him ahead here. But it is on my radar.
Yeah, and just to note, it would only take one injury, one person pulling out for Abi to be in the top 16 and thus have to face all of the hardest competition, which
Yeah,
would
and I
be
mean,
pretty crazy considering that he just got back to the top division.
yeah, and we know he's going to face some of the guys up here, or at the very least Takakeisho, because Takakeisho can't fight Takanosho. Takanosho can't fight Takakeisho because they're in the same stable.
So both of those guys will get bumped down to face at least Abi.
Yep, same as Daisho and Endo. They're in the same stable, so they will not face each other, obviously. So going down to Maegashira 6, I'm gonna go a little bit against the math for this next rank and let Joy Bias kind of take the wheel here to select the next Rikishi. So I do have Onosho being ranked Maegashira 6 after a 5-10 record for Maegashira 2. By the math, he deserves to be ranked below Hoshoryu, who was 7-8 from Maegashira 5. But I do think Joy Bias will win out here. Once again, looking back historically, it's kind of a mixed bag when comparing a 7-8 Maegashira 5 and a 5-10 Maegashira 2. So just kind of going with my gut, which when I do that is usually wrong. So we'll see if I should have trusted the math a little bit more, but I'm going with Joy Bias here. And another reason for this is it allows Hoshoryu to get a full rank demotion if we drop Onosho down to Maegashira 6 East. Hoshoryu would go Maegashira 5 West to Maegashira 6 West. I don't know how important that is, but I do feel like they like to see the full rank demotion if they can.
Yeah, when Ryan discovers a new rule of thumb, we gotta run with it for a little while.
We're gonna dive into that a little bit later in the Banzuke. I think I might have found something like super specific, and I'm probably reading into things too much, but it kind of explains some decisions that I've seen in the past couple of Banzukes. So I'm gonna run with it. But we're still like 7 or 8 ranks away from that discussion.
Okay.
Maegashira 7. This rank comes down to 2 Rikishi that both deserve to be ranked M8. So starting at Maegashira 7, we're going to be starting to pull Rikishi that are going to be either over promoted or under demoted. It's going to get worse before it gets better. So right now, it's only a 1 rank over promotion or under demotion. It gets worse. But like I said, there's no one. These 2 guys that are going to go here deserve to be M8. There's no one else that deserves to be ranked above them. So it's Takayasu, who is 6-9 and dropping from a Maegashira 5 rank, and Hide no Umi, who is 8-7 and rising from Maegashira 9. So since they both deserve to be the same rank by the math, and Takayasu was previously on the east side while Hide no Umi was on the west side, we'll keep them on their same sides and have Takayasu be Maegashira 7 east and Hide no Umi be Maegashira 7 west. Maegashira 8. This rank is fairly similar to Maegashira 7. We're looking at 2 Rikishi that deserve to be Maegashira 9. Takada Fuji, who was 5-10 from Maegashira 4, and Tobizaru, who was 7-8 from Maegashira 8 West. So it's pretty easy decision to put Takada Fuji at Maegashira 8 East because we can't put Tobizaru there because that would be a promotion, and Tobizaru had a losing record. But we are going to leave Tobizaru at Maegashira 8 West for the second straight prediction. So that would mean 3 straight Bashos at Maegashira 8 West for Tobizaru if this does bear out. So both of these guys deserve to be Maegashira 9 instead of Maegashira 8. But not only that, there is no one after them that deserves to be even Maegashira 10. So if we wanted to demote Tobizaru, the realistic candidates are dropping Shima no Umi 2 ranks after a 5-10 record for Maegashira 6.
Ooh, yeah.
Or promoting Chiyo no Kuni 6 ranks after a 9-6 record for Maegashira 14. Neither of those are more realistic than just keeping Tobizaru at Maegashira 8 West for the 3rd straight Basho. So Tobizaru, I think, will stay right there.
3rd time makes it a tradition. So at this point, you can just keep doing 7 and 8s and sit there.
And 3rd time is the charm. So I do believe Tobizaru Yusho is incoming.
That's
for
2 idioms right there in a row.
Yeah. And it keeps with the trend because we've had I think 6 straight newbie winners for Hatsu Bashos. Why not Tobizaru make it 7 in a row?
Ugh.
Oh, yeah. Kodo Shokiku, Kisa no
I'm not saying
Sato,
you're wrong. I'm just
Tochi
saying
no
that's like
Shin,
the biggest stretch I've ever heard in my life.
Tamawashi. Who is 2020? Oh,
You got it. Come on.
Tokushoryu
There it is.
and Daisho. So
Mhm.
Hatsu is the random Basho. I'm just saying it's Tobizaru's time to shine.
There are literally dozens of wrestlers I would pick ahead of him. But you know what? Let's do it.
There were 41 Rikshi I would have picked ahead of Tokushoryu when he won. So
That's a good point. But can I get that in writing for our prediction series for January from you?
No, absolutely not. So we move on to Magashira 9. This rank is just going to come down to the 2 guys that weren't good enough to budge Tobizaru from his death grip on the Magashira 8 West rank. And so we'll fill the Magashira 9 rank with them. So it's Shima no Umi and Chiyo no Kuni. They both deserve the same rank by the math. Shima no Umi was previously on the east side. Chiyo no Kuni was previously on the west side. So I've got Shima no Umi ending up at Magashira 9 East and Chiyo no Kuni at Magashira 9 West. So that does turn into a pretty decent promotion for Chiyo no Kuni, a 5-rank bump after a 9-6 record, and only a 3-rank drop for Shima no Umi after a 5-10 record. So these guys are getting a 2-rank over promotion or under demotion. And then we get to Magashira 10, where things get even more interesting. So
Interesting.
yeah, the Rikshi that deserve the Magashira 10 rank don't exist. The Rikshi that deserve the Magashira 11 rank have already been selected, those being Shima no Umi and Chiyo no Kuni. And the Rikshi that deserve Magashira 12 can't be placed here because that would involve either promoting a Rikshi with a losing record or promoting a Juryo Rikshi past a Makuuchi Rikshi with a winning record. So we have to get creative / desperate. So my first move of desperation is I'm going with Miyogiryu at Maegashira 10 East. So after his 2-13 record from Maegashira 3, he deserves to be Maegashira 14. But it is really tough to tell where these Joy guys with terrible records will end up. So over just the past decade, a Maegashira 3 with a 2-13 record has ended up anywhere between Maegashira 9 and Maegashira 14. They have literally filled every numerical rank between Maegashira 9 and Maegashira 14. So I think this situation definitely calls for a lenient demotion from Miyogiryu, because if we're not doing that, we're pulling up like Aqua and Sada no Umi with 9-6 records for Maegashira 16, which would be a 6-rank promotion for a 9-6 record.
Oof.
Yeah, so not a good situation. That being said, on the west side, I'm going with Aqua, who is 9-6 for Maegashira 16, because it's my only other choice. Because we need to promote somebody at this point, because there's really no other options for dropping Rikshi that we can demote. The only other Rikshi that are being demoted that we've passed and haven't placed yet are Kodaweko, who is 3-12 for Maegashira 8. He's not getting a 2-rank drop with that.
Nah.
And Aoyama, who is 4-11 for Maegashira 9. He's not getting a 1-rank jump drop with that. So neither of them could go here, and Aqua is the next eligible Rikshi to be promoted. So
And Asanoyama was previously at Maegashira 10 West.
Yep.
He'll be in Juryo, so that's just yet another spot you have to fill somehow.
Yep, exactly. So yeah, Maegashira 10 is probably the most desperate we get. Things do start to look a little bit better. So Maegashira 11, I do have Sada no Umi going there on the east side. He's going to go right after Aqua. They both had the same record from the same rank, that being 9-6 for Maegashira 16. So there is a case to be made to put both Aqua and Sada no Umi at Maegashira 10 and just drop Miyogiryu down a little bit further to Maegashira 11, to kind of get him more of a demotion that he deserves. I did look historically at a Maegashira 3 with a 2-13 record versus a Maegashira 16 with a 9-6 record. The dropping Rikshi from the Joy, which is Miyogiryu, beats out the over-promoted Rikshi from the bottom of the Banzuke. That's just how it has worked historically. So I think Joy bias will win out in this case, and we will have Miyogiryu ahead of both Aqua and Sada no Umi. And then at Maegashira 11 West, I have Teretsuyoshi acting again as another stopgap Rikishi, as a Rikishi that had a 7-8 record, but we're not going to demote. This is going to just allow us to prevent further severe under demotions and over promotions. Because if we're looking at who else could take Ishiura's spot, it comes down to a 6-9 Chiyo Tairyu from Maegashira 10, so that'd only be a 1 rank drop for Chiyo Tairyu, or it would be a 8-7 Chiyomaru from Maegashira 15, so that'd be a 4-rank jump for Chiyomaru. So in that case, I think we'll just leave Teretsuyoshi where he was, and like I said, act as a kind of a stopgap. And so once we get down to Maegashira 12, things do continue to look a bit better. And Maegashira 12 East comes down to a battle of, can Ishiura not be demoted after his 7-8 record, much like Teretsuyoshi and Tobizaru, or will he move down in favor of the falling Chiyo Tairyu with that 6-9 record for Maegashira 10? So I do go with moving down Ishiura. Chiyo Tairyu, and putting Chiyo Tairyu on the east side here, since both of them deserve to be the same rank by the math, and it guarantees a slight demotion for Ishiura after a losing record. And it doesn't cause a large under demotion or over promotion, dropping Chiyo Tairyu 2 ranks after a 6-9, well within reason.
That's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we can bump Ishiura down here. So that means I've got Ishiura going at Maegashira 12 West, because in order to move Ishiura down any further, we'd have to promote Chiyomaru up 3 ranks from Maegashira 15 after his 8-7 record, which I don't think that's enough to move Ishiura after his 7-8. Ishiura still deserves to be ranked ahead of Chiyomaru. So at Maegashira 13 on the east side, that could go to either Koto Nowaka, dropping 2 ranks from Maegashira 11 after his 6-9 record, or the previously mentioned Chiyomaru, rising from Maegashira 15 after his 8-7 record. By the math, they both deserve the same rank. They were both on the east side on the previous Banzuke, so another tiebreaker we can't go with. But here's that new thing I'm kind of keeping my eye on, Jake. There were a couple of situations in the previous Banzuke just like this, right around this rank, where they used different logic on who would be ranked ahead of them. So we had a couple situations. Guys deserve to be the same rank by the math. They were both on the east side or both previously on the west side. And sometimes it was the higher ranked Rikishi that got ranked ahead of them. Sometimes it was the Rikishi with the better record. It could really go either way. But did I not? Okay. We're going to save that explanation for later. Cause I put it in my, bonds in my prediction for the next rank. So we'll get to it in just a moment.
Okay,
Long story short, I'm going with Chiyomaru over Koto Nowaka here. So now that I have placed Chiyomaru, he was the last Rikishi with a winning record to be placed. We can now start promoting Rikishi from Juryo. So instead of all the other situations where I said, well, it was between Chiyomaru and Koto Nowaka, so Chiyomaru got the spot, I'm going to put Koto Nowaka here instead. Nope, we're going to go with Ichi Yamamoto at Maegashira 13 West. He got a 13-2 record from Juryo 4, so he deserves to be the highest ranked Juryo promotee. By the math, he deserved to be all the way up at Maegashira 11, but I think Maegashira 13 is a pretty good landing spot for him, probably one of the higher Juryo promotees we've seen in a little bit.
So you're probably going to get to him pretty quick here, but Wakamoto Haru is the other guy from Juryo that deserves a big jump.
Yes.
So Ichi Yamamoto had 2 wins more than Wakamoto Haru, but
Mhm.
he was 3 ranks below him.
Correct.
But you still think that Ichi Yamamoto should be jumping up, should be leapfrogging him?
Yeah, because Ichi Yamamoto should jump up 11 ranks, whereas Wakamoto Haru should jump up 7 ranks. So that's a difference in 4 ranks
just
between
by the math.
them.
Okay, I gotcha.
Yeah. So by the math, I have Ichi Yamamoto going ahead of Wakamoto Haru.
All right, fair enough.
So Maegashira 14, I can finally get to this new rule that I've been teasing for a little bit.
It is the edge of my seat.
I don't believe you whatsoever. I can see you.
No, I'm very comfortably in the back of my seat.
So Maegashira 14, it is a three-way battle. It involves Koto Nawaka and Yutakayama, who both deserve to be ranked Maegashira 14, and Wakamoto Haru, who is being promoted from Juryo and deserves to be ranked Maegashira 12. So I am going to go with Koto Nawaka at Maegashira 14 East and Yutakayama at Maegashira 14 West, because in order to put Wakamoto Haru here, it would involve over-demoting one of Koto Nawaka and Yutakayama. So if Wakamoto Haru takes one of these spots, either Koto Nawaka is getting a 4-rank demotion after a 6-9 record, or Yutakayama is getting a 2-rank demotion after a 7-8 record. And even though the math is in Wakamoto Haru's favor, I don't think they're going to over demote a Makuuchi Rikishi in order to place a Juryo Rikishi ahead of them. So I do have both Koto Nawaka and Yutakayama going here. And the reason I went with Koto Nawaka at Maegashira 14 East is because I'm starting to work with a theory that when you're in a virtual tie, like Koto Nawaka and Yutakayama are, where they deserve the same rank by the math, and both were previously on the same side of the Banzuke in the previous Basho, I think that the Banzuke committee is protecting the higher ranked Rikishi, regardless of what their previous record was. So what that means is if you have this tie like we do, they will first and foremost make sure that the higher ranked Rikishi can either get their full promotion or not be over demoted. So if Yutakayama was placed at Maegashira 14 East, Koto Nawaka would be demoted 3.5 ranks, which is a 0.5 rank over demotion for him. So in order to protect the higher ranked Rikishi and Koto Nawaka, I think they put him at Maegashira 14 East. And I know it's kind of weird and esoteric and only coming down to like a half rank difference in over demotion. Who cares? It's the only thing that I can see to make sense for how they rank some virtual ties in previous Banzukes. So if we just look, I know in my outline, Jake, it says I'm not going to bore you with the details, but here I
Oh
go.
no, was that a lie?
Yeah, apparently it was.
Yeah, go ahead.
So in the previous Banzuke, we had a virtual tie situation at Maegashira 13 between Yutakayama and Tochinoshin. Yutakayama was Maegashira 14 West with an 8-7 record. Tochinoshin was Maegashira 12 West with a 7-8 record. Virtual tie, they were on the same spot. And I went with Yutakayama to be ahead of Tochinoshin because he had the better record. And that did turn out to be correct, but I think why that was allowed to happen is because if you put Yutakayama at Maegashira 13 East and drop Tochinoshin down to Maegashira 13 West, that's a full rank demotion for Tochinoshin. So you're not like inconveniencing Tochinoshin by putting Yutakayama ahead of him. But then if you go to the next rank at Maegashira 14, we had a virtual tie between Chiyo no Kuni and Kagayaki. Kagayaki had a 7-8 record from Maegashira 13, and Chiyo no Kuni had a 9-6 record from Maegashira 17. And so what ended up happening there was Kagayaki got the East spot despite having the worse record than Chiyo no Kuni. And so if you had put Chiyo no Kuni at Maegashira 14 East, you would have over demoted Kagayaki by a half rank, by 1.5 ranks instead of just 1 rank. And so it works out. There's another instance in another Banzuke where I remember there's like 4 guys that were tied, and I just could not figure out their reasoning for why they would put the people in the order that they did, and kind of using the reasoning of let's protect first and foremost the highest ranked Rikishi got me to get them in the right order. So it's out there. It's for very specific situations, and at least in recent Banzukes, it allows me to make sense of how they placed Rikishi as opposed to just drawing names from a hat. So it's something I'm going to keep an eye out on and see how it does on this Banzuke. It's also kind of why I went with Chiyomaru over Koto Nawaka, where it was a virtual tie. And if I put Chiyomaru ahead of Koto Nawaka there, it's not forcing Koto Nawaka to be over demoted. Koto could go to Maegashira 13 West and have a 2.5 rank demotion for 6 and 9. Okay, that's fine. So in that case, where we're not inconveniencing the higher ranked Rikishi, we go with the person that had the better record, if that makes sense. It's very convoluted, probably wrong, but at least for now, it gives me inner peace for things that have been causing me turmoil for a while. So now that I have thoroughly confused everybody, let's move on to Maegashira 15. On the east side, since I snubbed Wakamoto Haru at Maegashira 14, I have him falling at Maegashira 15 East. And then Maegashira 15 West comes down to 3 Rikishi that all deserve to be Maegashira 16. Aoyama, Tochinoshin, and Tsurugisho. I might have made a change here. I did, so I need to update this because I used my new theorems. Okay.
Yes.
Otherwise, I would have had Tochinoshin on here twice. So, Tsurugisho is coming up from Juryo, so he's automatically eliminated in a tie situation due to anti-Juryo bias. And then it comes down to Tochinoshin and Aoyama. Since Aoyama was on the east side previously and Tochinoshin was on the west side, I'm going to go with Aoyama at this spot. I'll give Kodawako an outside shot of falling here too, but I do think he will keep sliding. And the more that I look at it, Kodawako had a 3-12 record from just one rank ahead of Aoyama, who had a 4-11 record. So in really every world, Kodawako should be behind Aoyama. So that outside shot really doesn't exist now that I kind of look at it a little bit closer. But because Aoyama was previously on the east side and we're in a virtual tie situation, I go with him ahead of Tochinoshin. So Maegashira 16 comes down to the 2 Rikishi I rejected for the Maegashira 15 West rank. Since the Banzuke committee hates Juryo Rikishi, I will continue to snub Tsurugisho and go with Tochinoshin at Maegashira 16 East, and then Tsurugisho at Maegashira 16 West.
As is tradition.
Yep. So then we get to Maegashira 17. And I think this slot is pretty easily for Kodawako at this point. He's the only Rikishi that deserves to be ranked Maegashira 17, and everyone else that's left to be ranked deserves to be lower. So I think Maegashira 17 East is pretty easy for Kodawako. And then at Maegashira 17 West, just going to slide Kaisei down 1/2 rank from Maegashira 17 East. Since the only other competition for this spot is Kageyaki, whom Kaisei deserves to be ahead of by the math. And then there's a borderline promotion case in Oho, and we typically always err on the side of Makuuchi in those cases. So we'll go with Kaisei ahead of Oho here. And then at Maegashira 18 on the east side. So speaking of erring on the side of Makuuchi, I'm going to do the exact opposite and go with Oho here. My reasoning is being that Oho deserves to be ranked ahead of Kageyaki by a full rank. And if we place Oho ahead of Kageyaki, it is kind of going back to my theory of protecting the higher ranked Rikishi. It's not going to cause Kageyaki to become over demoted if we put Oho here. But mostly it's just a spite move for me against Kageyaki. And when I am wrong, which I absolutely will be about this, the Banzuke committee loves them some Kageyaki. I'm not going to be upset about it. I did this for the right reasons, and so I don't feel bad about it. I'm going into this recognizing that this is an incorrect decision.
I'm just going to go ahead and say that's the one you're getting wrong. That's my pick. Since you're going to ask me anyways for what I think you did wrong, that's the one. That Kageyaki might not even get demoted for all I know, you know?
Yeah. But something that I was looking at was a couple of basho ago, we had similar situation for the final spot between Chiyo no Kuni and Mitoryu. Chiyo no Kuni had a 7-8 record from Maegashira 16, and Mitoryu had a 12-3 record from Juryo 6. By the math, Mitoryu deserved to be ranked 3 ranks ahead of Chiyo no Kuni. But what it would do if you put Mitoryu ahead of Chiyo no Kuni would be demoted 2 slots for a 7-8 record instead of just 1 numbered rank. And so I think, like I said, protect the higher ranked Rikishi from any unnecessary over demotion. And so I think that's what was happening there. In this case, where we're arguing for Oho or Kageyaki, Oho deserves to be ahead of Kageyaki. Really, the only reason Kageyaki has a chance of taking this spot is because he was in Makuuchi. Otherwise, it would be a slam dunk for Oho. But like I said, since it's not going to cause an more than reasonable demotion for Kageyaki, or a more than the math demotion for Kageyaki, I do think we can slot Oho in here. Once again, recognizing that that's not going to happen.
Of course.
So we brought up four guys from the Juryo division: Ichi Yamamoto, Wakamoto Haru, Tsurugisho, and Oho. And so that means we're going to have 3 Rikishi dropping down to Juryo. So Asanoyama will drop from Makuuchi as he serves the 4th basho of his 6 basho suspension. I also have Kageyaki and Shohozan dropping down. But you have to remember there is the spot that was left absent by Hakuho's retirement. We had only 41 Rikishi in the Makuuchi division last time, so we need to bring up 1 extra Juryo guy to fill that 42nd spot in the Makuuchi division. So despite the fact that we have 4 Rikishi coming up from Juryo, we're only going to be sending 3 guys down to Juryo. So Jake, like I said, or like you said, what do you think I got wrong? You're saying Kageyaki will be there instead of Oho. Besides that slam dunk of one, was there anything else that stood out to you?
No, not really. I guess I am kind of looking forward to the March Banzuke prediction when every single one of your theories is lit on fire, and you have to
the
come up with new
Juryo
ones.
one has bore a lot of fruit. That one is pretty consistent.
Yeah. No, I don't think yeah, like you said at the beginning, there's a lot of uncertainty, but it's all like small scale uncertainty.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'd be shocked if you were off by more than 2 slots for anybody, but like there's so many that seem like you're gonna
could
get
be a
one
lot
of them
of
off. Yeah.
half rank or
Exactly.
full rank.
Half rank off or whatever. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
It's gonna be weird. And you know, I hope it's one that teaches you a lesson about overthinking stupid bullshit. But we'll see.
That will never happen.
No, of course
I
not.
need there is a drive inside of me to find logic for everything. And I think I found a hidden nugget of logic that is only there if you're looking far too closely at things. So
Yeah.
like I said, we'll see if that bears fruit. It won't, but it would
No.
be nice if it would.
We've both watched enough anime to know that Japanese things should be very structured, right? There should be like
exactly
a list of rules. We just have to decipher them, right?
Yes,
And
that's what I'm
I completely understand that completely irrational drive that makes that it's just going to leave you disappointed. And I
know.
I'm so happy I'm here to witness it.
I'm going to be so mad. This Banzuke is just leading up to a very depressed Ryan on Christmas Eve of all days, when this Banzuke will be released, December 24th, 2021, for the Basho that starts January 9th, 2022. The Hatsu Banzuke always comes out about a week earlier than the usual Banzukes. I think we got a 3-week break between Banzuke release and the Basho start. But you know what? That's fine. A little extra time in the holidays. That's always nice.
A little extra time for you to figure out how to reassemble the wreckage of your new rules.
Yeah. And before we go, want to let everybody know to keep an eye out for our 5th annual Sumo Award Show that will be dropping at the end of the year or the very beginning of 2022, as we go over all the highlights and lowlights from the year in sumo that was 2021. But until then, if you enjoy this podcast, if you enjoy trying to find logic and everyday mundane things where no logic can honestly be applied to, leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcast or your favorite podcast listening service.
Do the thing on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and grandsumobreakdown.wordpress.com. And check out the North American Sumo Championships this weekend. We'll be streaming on YouTube.
Yep. If you have any comments, questions, or corrections, you can send us an email at grandsumobreakdown@gmail.com, or you can always leave us a voicemail at 805-613-7866. That is 805-613-SUMO.
All right, that'll do it.
Yep.
Meow.
Gosh,
Thank you for listening to Grand Sumo Breakdown. Until next time,
Throw your salt high.
And keep moving forward.